of concrete, air high five, ding.
Or real high five.
Or real high five. So we are doing
Photo analysis.
photo analysis today.
Okay.
It's somewhere close to home,
Very close.
right by a friend's house. So they saw all this happening, so there's background to it.
Did she take pictures and bring it in?
No, her husband did.
Oh.
Yeah, we were hanging out, watching the game.
Yeah.
Said, hey, by the way. Said, so I've got more photos of this, but let's show the photo. Ding! That was a really good one.
That was really good.
Did you get a second? Take a look at that photo.
Yes.
You have a foundation that is being set for a house. Now, normally this concrete is 3,000 to 4,000 PSI,
Right.
maybe a little bit more.
Not super strong, but decent.
Decent residential
Right.
concrete has anywhere between a 3, maybe a 7-inch slump if somebody's going for something a little bit higher. Total cementitious, no more than 517.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe if it's a heavier structure, they'll go a little bit beefier, or if the ready mix provider has just started, they'll go a little bit heavier to make that ACI 318. 1750 on the rock, pounds per cubic yard, 1250 on the sand,
Yeah.
0.45 or 0.45, 0.55
On the water.
on the
I know.
yeah.
Could be.
0.6 on the water cementitious, and a little bit of chemical, a little bit of
High range.
higher. I would say a
Accelerator,
mid-range.
Mid-range? Okay.
Mid-range, and accelerated because it's winter. We
Right.
hope. Let's just assume.
Right.
And then we got some good ready mix providers.
Yep.
And then a small amount of air, half an ounce per
Sure.
hundredweight,
For the freeze thaw.
and 4 ounces per hundredweight on the mid-range.
Sure.
So a good sturdy mix, but that time we were having a lot of freezes.
Oh yeah.
And this is on a weekend. It was poured on a Friday afternoon, because that's the unfortunate reality. Most of the time, the residential folk have
Just
to wait till
don't
the
have
end of the
priority,
week, end
right.
of the day, don't get the priority.
Right.
And what you're seeing when you're looking at the photo is bare concrete.
Right.
It's got a little water on it. And again, so most of this concrete, 18 inches wide, continuous spread footing, maybe 12 inches thick.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you have those columns, or those square footings
Right.
that are maybe 36 by 36 and 12,
Sure.
16 somewhere thick. None of them are covered. And the background is we know the folks living next door to it.
Right.
And it just was poured and left in place,
Not covered at all.
not covered at all. And that day was a very specific day. We went over their house, if you
Right.
remember.
Yeah.
So we went over their house.
It was so cold.
It was
and
freezing.
icy, like sheets of ice. We never get that out here.
Zeros.
Or very rarely.
Zeros
But,
and
like,
negatives.
Sheets.
We tried to park in their driveway, and I pulled on the e-brake, and the car just
Started sliding down.
sliding down. So everybody's driveway was like that. The streets
Yeah.
were like that. So with that type of condition,
Right.
what you're supposed to see is some type of
Covered.
cover. In the worst case scenario, a blanket. And I say that if you're a contractor who does that, and you don't at the very least put blankets on, shame on you. Now, as a contractor, one of the things that I loved about the idea of becoming a contractor, I never had the training to become a contractor, and then when I started I'm not good at placing materials. I know my strengths and weaknesses, and placing it is not one of my
You're
strengths.
a scientist in the lab.
I am a scientist in the lab, but one of the things I loved about being a contractor was, it's every boy and girl who tinkers,
Sure.
and who makes and breaks when they're kids.
Sure.
The contracting life is your dream job.
Sure.
So one of the things that people can do is hydronic heating.
That is very cool.
And if you haven't done it, it is the coolest
Yes.
thing in the world.
The setup is a little costly, but you can reuse it, and
We're going to do a video after this about hydronic heating, and we'll link it to this. It's so awesome. So
Yes. It's just the concrete is going to have a lot of problems. It's fresh concrete. It's not even, if it was at least 7 or 28 days or something like that, it's built up a good bit of strength. But fresh
Dang.
concrete.
I mean, they had to rip it and strip it. They
Oh,
had
yeah.
to place a new
I mean,
one. And
you've got
if
that
there
water
wasn't-
still sitting in the concrete, like
It's gonna
that's
freeze.
freezing and
even if it's 7 days
expanding
old,
and
there's a
causing
certain
problems.
strength you're supposed to reach.
before
You're strong enough to deal with.
that sort of stuff.
That
What is it,
freezing
at least
fun.
28 days.
No. It was a strength. It was like 25 or
Oh,
3,500.
sure. Okay.
And within 24 hours in that type of cement, unless they boosted the accelerator, but even
It
without
got
the blankets,
so cold right after
In-
they placed it, though.
in that situation, what I would have done, blanket,
Yeah,
hydronic, blanket,
sure.
and have somebody going out and some sensors. Yes, residential concrete. That's how you get chosen as the best person on the block.
That's true.
By going above and beyond. We know people who do it.
That's
I'm
true.
not a contractor, so I wouldn't do it. I just know the techniques. I know the folks who apply the techniques
Right.
are recognized as the lead in their industry.
Right.
All right, so I mean, what ended up happening is they did rip it and strip it,
Right.
and
It was a
we
lawsuit.
don't know if
Well,
there
we
was a
assume.
lawsuit, but I mean, you should see the possibility of that from the picture.
Oh, sure.
I
Without
mean,
question.
snow in there. I mean, if it was older, if they had left it covered at 7 days, and it was a stronger mix, and it had some calcium in it, or some non-chloride accelerator, hey, not too bad. But
Right.
knowing the background,
Oh, absolutely.
when you know the background and you see the picture,
But the sad thing is, oftentimes, I think that happens a lot more than we realize in residential concrete, and then it ends up causing problems later.
I've seen a bunch of this. I
Sure.
mean, I've seen worse than that, like stuff that just
absolutely.
shakes your head, like. But that could have been prevented.
Right.
Definitely
The
could,
little
especially with little planning and the technology that we have. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that could have been prevented. Okay, well thanks for joining us. We hope you got something out of
Yes.
it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that jazz.
Click the
Patchouli
bell
wants
for
us to say.
notifications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That-
All right.
And we're gonna be doing some giveaways here, so we're pretty excited about it. Whitney suggested one. I hated it.
He's overcomplicating it. Anyways.
Go concrete!
Beat asphalt!